And welcome into the Tuesday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley alongside Connor Newt and Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. Rexrode on vacation this week. He will be back next week, and we wish him well on his vacation. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Connor Newt, I think it's run into everything in the studio so far this morning.
Nothing's broken yet.
How we doing? What's going on?
Aside from not being able to walk properly, apparently, I'm good. I have fortunately not caused any major damage to the studio. But other than that, we're good.
The day is young. The morning is young.
Oh, it's going to happen. Like these cameras are going down soon.
Still plenty of time around here. Ian, how we doing? What's going on?
Well, doing great, thanks. They have the Titans-Falcons preseason replay on NFL Network right now.
Oh, good.
So waking up with some wonderful preseason football replays.
Yes.
And Charmed, of course, on the other TV.
Yeah, a lot of things going on around here. Rexrode can hardly focus sometimes when Charmed is on.
I was missing some quality episodes this week.
Yes.
I will have to say.
He is. I mean, maybe he's watching them on vacation. I have no idea. But we're a big Charm fan on this program. We got a lot going on in the program today. Mike Wilson from the Knoxville News Sentinel will be with us at 7:15. We will get into Joey Aguilar being named the starting quarterback for Tennessee and all things Tennessee Vols with him later in the program. Gentry Estes from the Tennessean will join us at 8. We will get into all things Titans with him. So looking forward to all that. Taking your thoughts in the meantime. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. The story from Titans practice yesterday, Cam Ward, Jeffrey Simmons getting into a bit of a scuffle, I guess you would call it. Obviously, Jeffrey Simmons, it's not the first time he's been involved in a practice altercation. It didn't sound like it was an enormous deal, but I wasn't there. So let's hear from a man who was. Teron Davenport joined DVD yesterday and gave his account as to what he saw between Cam Ward and Jeffrey Simmons. Here's what TD had to say yesterday on DVD.
It happened right in front of me. I was standing in the end zone, and I think really what you have to do is take it back to the previous play, right? Because Julius Chestnut, he bounced one outside. They're in the low red zone. Chestnut bounced one outside, and he outraced the DB. I think it was Amani Hooker, outraced him to the end zone. And the whole reason he was able to bounce it outside because J.C. Latham got a good block kind of in the way of Simmons. And, J.C. Latham, he's going to talk. And he and Simmons, they probably have the biggest rivalry out of the two on the team, if not Cam Ward and Simmons. So Latham was talking to him all the way up and into the huddle. And, Simmons was talking back. So they spotted the ball. They called the play, and Ridley ran a really nice route. He was able to catch a touchdown on Jarvis Brownlee Jr., and he was walking towards Cam, and Cam was walking to him. But for whatever reason, Cam stopped at Jeffrey Simmons. He pushed him, and he did the Zombieland celebration, and Simmons didn't like that. So 2 hands to the face, and next thing you know, everybody's around. And like Dan Moore said, right, it goes without saying, protecting the quarterback and nobody being allowed to touch him, and that's what happened. I personally think Brian Callahan could have made a statement, right? I think it was a missed opportunity. He should have thrown Simmons out of the practice, even though Cameron Ward started it. But, the guy who retaliates, he's always the one that gets caught.
That was TD yesterday on with DVD. And an interesting point there at the end of it, right, of, Callahan maybe missing an opportunity to throw Simmons out of practice. We talked about that last year with Simmons when Simmons was getting into altercations. And this was before I think he got into the altercation with Andrew on the sideline over there last year. But the opportunity Brian Callahan had to throw him out of practice last year, and he didn't do it. Let me start here, okay? We've talked a lot about Jeffrey Simmons over the past few years and about, some of the training camp fights, some of the tweets. And by the way, he tweeted again last night and basically said, him and Cameron Ward are fine, and they'll be letting the media make too much of this. It happens in between the white lines out there. I largely agree. Like, I don't really think this is a huge deal on the surface of it. I mean, yes, I would like to see, I guess, Jeffrey Simmons stop being at the center of this every time for the Titans, but that's the player he is. He plays with a lot of passion, all that stuff. I mean, really the one thing I will say that I've got a problem with is just don't touch the quarterback. I understand if you're the quarterback, like, first off, Cam Ward, maybe stop getting in the face and provoking the defensive lineman. Let your offensive lineman do that, because you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you can get hurt in an actual game when it's not your teammate. So probably something to watch there. I like the competitiveness. I like the fire from Cam Ward. On the Jeffrey Simmons front, I like his competitiveness too. I would just say don't touch the quarterback. Like, just keep your hands off the quarterback. Other than that, I don't really have a huge issue with it. It doesn't sound like it was some brawl out there. It sounds like it was basically a two-hand shove that Ward gave Simmons, and that Simmons returned to Ward, and then everybody got in each other's face after that. So sounds like that's the way that things went down yesterday at practice. But interesting point there from TD on the Callahan front.
Yeah, I completely agree with TD, actually. I agree with you as well. I think this whole story is kind of overblown. You got to think these are the two most talkative people on the team, Cam Ward and Jeffrey Simmons. And they've gotten into it before this offseason. So it doesn't surprise me that they got into it again, especially on a day where it was, 115 degrees outside or whatever it is right now.
It's pretty hot.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. I think that's a factor. Simple explanation for a complicated story, I guess. But if I'm Brian Callahan, I would have tossed Simmons, because you cannot put your hands on the quarterback. I don't care in what capacity it is. If that guy goes down and it's your fault, then that is a
that's the biggest
problem
I've got with it. Like, you can't touch the quarterback. And this actually happened, in a different scenario last week. Like, Shamar Stewart in Cincinnati ended up colliding with Joe Burrow at practice, and everybody just went nuts. Like, what are you doing, you idiot?
Yeah.
Keep your hands off the quarterback. Like, good teams do not shove their quarterback in practice and throw him to the ground. So again, look, I'm not going to make too much of a big deal of this. Like, it was a shoving match and everybody's fine. And, Cam Ward, hopefully when the season comes around, will let his offensive lineman get in the face of the defensive tackle rather than him doing that. But that's the main takeaway I have, is just like, let's try to keep our hands off the quarterback here, because if Cam Ward goes down over a stupid training camp incident, I mean, what a Titan story that would be to have that happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you. I think it's always kind of interesting to see Jeffrey Simmons always at the center of these kinds of things. And I don't think that's a testament to he has bad character or whatever. I think that's just kind of the player he is. Like I said, him and Cam Ward this training camp have been the most vocal out there, and they've tend to get into it a couple times. But yeah, if I'm Callahan, I would have totally just set an example, tossed Simmons from the practice just because he touched the quarterback. I mean, the quarterback wears that red jersey for a reason. So if Cam Ward were to go down because of that, then that would be a different issue. But I don't think this is a major deal. I don't think we should be overblowing this the way some of the media is. It was a simple training camp practice scuffle. It's nothing more, nothing less. No one was injured. There was no brawl. I think that's all it is. It's just a skirmish.
Well, in Simmons, like, Simmons is, I don't know if controversial is the right word, but we've talked a lot about Simmons over the last couple of years around here. And there's some Titans fans that absolutely love Jeffrey Simmons. And look, make no mistake, I think Jeffrey Simmons is the best player on this roster.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's pretty clear.
Low bar.
He's the best player on this roster. So they need him to elevate, and they need him to be better than he's been the last couple of years, particularly with what he's getting paid. And we'll see whether or not he does that this year. But like, this part about Simmons, it's always been there. Like, he's always kind of had that fiery side to him. I'm cool with it as long as it doesn't go over the line. Like, don't be getting personal foul penalties in games that cost your team 15 yards. That's how you lose football games. Don't do that. And we've seen that happen from time to time. So I don't like that. And again, like, you got to have, I think, some restraint if you're Simmons. I understand that Cam Ward is up in your face talking, and TD did a good job there of explaining what happened the play before of, Simmons getting kind of walled off by J.C. Latham and then Latham running his mouth after that too. And on the surface, again, I don't have a problem with any of that. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I kind of like the barking back and forth between offensive linemen and defensive linemen. You just got to show a little bit more restraint if you're Jeffrey Simmons when you look up and say, "Oh, that's a quarterback. Yeah, I probably don't need to touch him." That's the only thing I ask.
No, I agree. The only thing is we're not talking about a lack of energy today, are we?
That's true.
So maybe that's a good thing.
That is true.
Come in fiery.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Take your thoughts on the Cam Ward, Jeffrey Simmons scuffle. Is that what we're calling it? We'll go scuffle.
Scuffle's fine with
yesterday
me.
at practice. We got a lot of things on the Titans front to get into this hour. We will do that as well. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Some thoughts to get to on the Ward-Simmons scuffle at Titans practice yesterday. Anthony on the YouTube chat says, just another example of Callahan being a soft coach, which of course will equal a weak, undisciplined team. Ben says, Callahan, most likely not it. He didn't even learn from last year to throw him out. I still don't even see what he's good at. Talking about Brian Callahan there. So a couple of Titans fans that we're hearing from that are not very happy with Brian Callahan not throwing Simmons out of practice yesterday. So, look, yes, would I have liked to see him throw it out of practice too? I guess. I mean, I don't know exactly what period of practice that was at or how close they were to being done or any of those things. But yeah, show a little bit of a backbone as a coach, throw him out of practice. And basically the point would be send the message that you don't touch the quarterback. That's what I keep coming back to in this whole thing is just let's stop touching the quarterback at practice. That would be great. Put a stop to it before it ever becomes a problem.
Yeah, no, that's my number one problem with it as well. I guess if I'm Brian Callahan, I would have probably made the move to toss him just to show example and backbone and stuff like that. But I can see where fans are frustrated with that. You want a coach to have backbone and to have control of the team. And I guess from an outsider perspective, if you weren't there, you and I weren't there, Robby. So it does look like things got out of control. I think TD laid it out perfectly and he was right there. So he knows exactly what happened. I think if Jeffrey Simmons was to go after anyone, it probably should have been JC Latham based on what I heard from TD. But I don't know. I don't think this is a example of, what this team is about to be. I think it's just a one example of things that happen when it gets hot out on practice field and you have a practice and you get intense. That's just kind of what happens. But yeah, if I was Brian Callahan, I probably would toss him just because backbone sets an example and kind of sets the tone for the next practice.
Well, I'll read this piece from TD's piece at ESPN.com. So Simmons and Ward were separated, but that was after Simmons' helmet was pushed off during the scuffle. Ward returned for the next play while Simmons came off the field. Practice was over 2 plays later. Titans coach Brian Callahan had the team run after practice. So you're talking about the very end of practice. It's hot. And they went and ran at the end of practice, which is not the first time they've done that, I think. So
yeah, they've run
a lot. Times. So hey, conditioning, they're gonna be well conditioned out there. So that's good to see. So again, I'm not gonna sit here. We're not gonna spend a whole lot much more time on this today. We'll get into it with Gentry a little bit later in the show. I do think it was probably blown up a little bit too much yesterday on social media. That's also a sign of where we're at right now. We're in the middle of training camp. There's one preseason game left, and we're still quite a bit a ways away from regular season football. So things like this become more of a story. I had Charles Robinson texting me about it last night too. So
what the hell happened?
This is it grabs your attention. It grabs, a headline out there when you're talking about your star defensive tackle and your first overall pick quarterback getting into it a little bit at practice. We'll see what this means in terms of, Brian Callahan. Are the Titans going to be soft this year? Like I keep going back to the same thing when we have these type of discussions and we talked about this with energy level. We've talked about this with a lot of things with the Titans. How much of it is they don't have energy level when it gets to the time to play the game? How much of it is they're soft, and how much of it is they're just not very good? Like that to me is what it all kind of comes back to. Now, the one thing I will say on the softness front, I think clearly last year they are very upset with the way other teams ran the ball on them. Can you prevent teams from doing that this year? Like, can you prevent teams from just gashing you in the run game? And again, some of that comes down to personnel too. Just how equipped are you to handle it? But I do think that, at times, stopping the run can be a mentality. And I thought in the Washington game in particular last year, I'm not going to say they quit out there, but you saw it. Like they got absolutely gashed in that game. and it didn't look like they had a whole lot of interest in making some adjustments and stopping people out there. So can you avoid just absolute disasters like that this year on the running game? Can you put a stop to that if you're Sweat and Simmons and that front? But the softness part of it, I think we probably overblow that term a little bit out there. And when it comes to professional football, now the discipline is something. Is this going to be a disciplined team? Because with the lack of talent that the Titans have, what you can't have is a lack of talent and a lack of discipline, because that's how you get killed in the NFL. Like if you're picking up personal foul penalties, or you're not committed enough to hold your block as long as you need to hold it, like all these things, like there's discipline involved. If you're jumping, false start left and right, and you're just setting your drives back all the time, there's got to be a level of discipline to offset some of the lack of talent that we know is on this roster right now.
I think my concern is that they're going to talk themselves into situations they can't get out of. Like I was watching, they said it in the Bucs game, and then they doubled down on it last week. But Charles Davis was adamant that Denard Wilson told him that no one is going to be able to run the ball on the Titans this year. And we saw what happened when they said that last year. Everyone, in fact, did run the ball on the Tennessee Titans. So I think that's my concern, and that's kind of what this whole scuffle raised for me, is that they're going to get themselves into situations that they can't get out of on the field. Like not even from a personal foul standpoint. If Jeffrey Simmons goes up to the wrong guy and pisses him off, there are players in this league that'll make you, earn it and burn you off for that. Like the top level players, and the Titans play some tough competition this year as far as top level players. So I think that's just where my concern is that they're going to dig a hole that they can't crawl out of.
Let's head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Jason in Hendersonville to the program. Jason, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, guys, I don't disagree with the coach, needing to throw him out. But, I don't know how many people out there I speak for, but I had a coach once tell me that you do your talking with your play on the field. And right now, about all I see out of Simmons is really him running his mouth. So, he needs to either step it up or step on. Because NFL and the Titans were here before him, and they'll be here after him. And but yeah, it's just ridiculous how he'll run his mouth. But where have we seen the play? You're right. They ran the ball all over us last year. I think that's his and when I was coaching, and my coach to me, I tell my guys on defense, you can celebrate with your defensive players when you make a good play. Or my offense, you can celebrate with your offensive players, but you're not going to taunt the other half of the ball field. We're going to do our talking with our play on the field. So, tell Jeffrey, if I was a coach, I'd say, look, man, you're just going to have to do your talking with your play. Just stay away from my quarterback.
Yep.
Yeah, we're getting sick of it.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Yeah, that's the other part. Again, I don't have much of a problem with Simmons talking as long as it's not leading to stupid stuff. Like, don't be getting personal foul penalties. But, having said that, like, we all know that there needs to be an uptick in production from him this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is, and, we can point to excuses if you want to of he's not had a great group around him rushing the passer the last few years, which has been accurate. The team around him's not been very good. All those things are true. But independent of that, like, the Titans are paying him to be an elite player, and they need an uptick in production from him this year. And we'll see. Look, he's lost the weight.
Yep.
I'm very interested to see what that actually means by the time the regular season comes around, and what that's going to look like in terms of his production, both in the run game and getting after the quarterback, which this team is desperately going to need. So I've got an open mind to it. I've got an open mind to maybe him being really, really good this year, but I need to see it. This is the year I need to see it from Jeffrey Simmons.
I think he has the physical skills to do it. I really do. Like, he has the talent and the skill level and the build to do it. It's just all mental for him. Can he put aside the talking and the childishness of his personality, I guess, and just play football? Like, that's all we need to see from you. I don't need to see you jawing with the quarterback every other play. I just go sack the quarterback and show us that you're capable of doing that.
So back to our 102.5 The Game phone line. Welcome in Jared in Spring Hill to the program. Jared, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning. Is Rexrode, where's he at? No offense to other guys. He okay?
Yeah, he's just on vacation. He's good.
Oh, okay. So in a way, I kind of admire the Titans for what they're going through right now, because it seems like a couple months ago, that's what a lot of them said, is that they's going to be trash talking each other at practice, and it seems like they're really setting out to do that to one another. But I also wish that they would talk more openly, maybe about getting better at fundamentals, or developing a game plan, or sticking to, how to be a better team. Because I used to coach youth football, and I really just don't understand how much a better team is you're gonna be by talking smack to one another. And I really don't want to see Cam Ward get involved in it, because he can be just as guilty and get involved and get a 15-yarder as well. Whenever he's out there talking, he can react and be put in a situation, and that's just not really how I would want my first pick, learning from a leader on the team. And this could just be a little bit deeper, but do you think, is Simmons trying or making a cry out to get traded by others, or like what is this? Or is he just bored? Does he need to play a preseason game to get some of this out of his system? He knows to hit somebody else? Because I don't know. There's just a lot going on, a lot to process. And again, we weren't there, but I just don't necessarily understand how this is making you a better team.
Yep. Thanks, Jared.
Anyway,
Appreciate it.
tighten up.
Well, look, this is Jeffrey Simmons. I don't think this is new for him, right?
I mean, at this point, he's going to talk. He's always going to talk. He always has. I don't think there's any way you can completely rein that in.
Yeah, I don't think that this is him overly frustrated or wanting out or anything like this. Is Jeffrey Simmons. I think that's just what it is.
Yeah.
So it's the NFL again. I understand when you're talking about high school football, you don't want your guys talking all that much. But
Right.
I do think it's a different thing in the NFL. Frankly, just go watch an NFL game and watch people mic'd up. You get away with talking more in the NFL.
Yeah.
You just do.
They're adults.
They're adults. It's professional sports. The officials are trained. I mean, unless it's just super egregious, for the most part, you're getting away with stuff. So, I think there's an environment there that is conducive to trash talk. And again, on the surface, I have no problem with the trash talk. Basically, all I have a problem with is just keep your hand off the quarterback. That's really my main issue.
Yep.
Keep your hand off the quarterback.
That's where I am. I think this is being a bit overblown with Jeff's personality, because that's just the kind of person he is. Do I think he needs to ring it in a little bit? Yeah, of course. Don't touch the quarterback. But I think he needs to put his play before his, talk. That's just my opinion on it.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. We'll continue to take your thoughts on the Titans. Plus, how are we feeling about the AFC South to this point in camp? We got a quarterback competition in Indy, an entirely different offensive line for Houston, and then there's Jacksonville and the circus that they always are. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Later today on ESPN 94.9 The Fan, the Sounds take on Louisville at First Horizon Park. First pitch at 6:35. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at thegamenashville.com. Sounds baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So we are deep into training camp at this point. Regular season is coming into view at this point. One more preseason game in a couple weeks, and you get to the regular season in the NFL. Taking a look around the AFC South, the Colts are close to naming a starting quarterback. This according to their head coach after their preseason game on Saturday to the Green Bay Packers. Richardson, Daniel Jones, in a quarterback competition. Shane Steichen said, quote, "I've seen obviously 3 weeks of it, so I'd like to have a decision here shortly." Says he's very close to making a decision, which means it's probably going to come here in the next few days, would be my guess. Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, neither one of them have been overly inspiring to this point in camp, but I'm interested to see which way he goes here. My thought on it is if it's close, I'd probably go Richardson because you're still hoping that there's some level of upside there. I mean, I think we know at this point what Daniel Jones is. Daniel Jones has been in the league. Daniel Jones is 28 years old. And if it's still really, like, if you feel like it's really close between those two, I would go Richardson. I don't think he's going to do that. I think he's going to go Jones. And I think there have been some things that Steichen has said along the way that if you read between the lines, it kind of feels that way. He talked the other day about the operation, communication in the huddle, checks, getting guys on the same page, looking across and seeing what the defense is doing and making sure you're in the right spot offensively. And we saw just a couple weeks ago, right? Like Anthony Richardson didn't see something at the line of scrimmage and got himself killed out there in a preseason game. And I still think there's a lack of faith that Richardson is really confident in what he's seeing out there. And I think because of that, Jones is going to end up winning the job, even though I don't think that's a good move at all for Indianapolis.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're both going to see some playing time at some point this season, just because I think whichever one starts will be so bad, they'll have to put in the other one, and it'll be a cycle. The Colts are going to find themselves in the hunt for a quarterback here in the next few years, just because I think Richardson was not ready out of college. I mean, you know this, Robby. He wasn't anything special at Florida, in my opinion. I never saw him as an NFL prospect. So when he got drafted number 4 overall, I was like, they better set him for a year. He absolutely needs it. Then they didn't, and he showed you the consequences of that decision. So I think the Colts have set themselves back in the quarterback market for quite some time. And if I were Steichen, this is where I would disagree with you. I think I would send out Daniel Jones just to see what different result you can get with him. But if he's bad, obviously, I think you pull him and you put Richardson back in.
I just think he is bad. And look, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe the regular season comes around, but
I think it's a fair assumption.
Like how he ended in New York, the reports on how he's played in camp to this point. I just think Daniel Jones is no good. And I would rather take my chances and giving another opportunity for the young kid that you drafted number 4 overall to see if he can figure it out at some point before you have to go down that road of getting back into the quarterback wilderness. Look, I don't have if they went the other way and they started Richardson, I don't have confidence that he's just all of a sudden going to turn it on and figure it out.
No.
I think he has largely been ruined, and I'm not sure what was there to begin with other than the incredible physical attributes, right? Like, I mean, the testing that he did at the combine was insane. Like, it was probably the greatest like physical attributes from a quarterback we've seen. He can throw it a mile, but if you can't look across the line of scrimmage and see what you're looking at from a defensive standpoint and put your team in the right adjustments, make the right checks at the line of scrimmage, if you don't have that part of it down, it's really hard to play winning football in the NFL. So, like, I don't have confidence in either one of them, but I would as an NFL fan, I'd rather watch Anthony Richardson than Daniel Jones go out there and just chuck the ball to the other team.
I mean, we've seen guys maybe not to the level of Anthony Richardson, but we've seen guys take massive jumps in the draft because of those physical traits. I mean, look at Trey Lance. Trey Lance was drafted number 3 overall, still has yet to, show anything. Started, 2 games for the 49ers, then got hurt, and then we never saw him again. I mean, there are guys like that all the time. I think the Colts have just fallen into the trap of them all with Anthony Richardson, and they're set back. Like, I don't think either of these quarterbacks are the answer for their franchise. And I think they're just going to be in mediocre land until they figure out where to find an elite quarterback.
Well, Mike says, the Colts are tanking for Arch Manning. I don't think that's what's going on. First off, as we've said, I don't think Manning's coming out after this year. Let's watch Arch Manning play college football, see how good he is.
And not just say that for every single bad team.
We'll see how good he is. I think he's going to be good, but let's go see it.
Yeah.
At first. And you can take it for gospel or not if you want to, but Archie Manning did say that a few weeks ago that Arch is not coming out of the draft this year. So I don't know what that means. We'll see what that ends up looking like. I've always thought he's going to stay the next 2 years at Texas because that's what his family does. They stay in college. So we'll see what that looks like at that point. But beyond that, look, the Colts, I can promise you, Chris Ballard, he does not want Anthony Richardson to fail. Jim Irsay has passed away, and there's a new regime in there now with Indianapolis with his daughters leading the way. And I have no idea how they're going to handle things, how they're going to operate, what their kind of mindset is for the timeline here. But I think for a lot of people, you look at Chris Ballard specifically, and it's kind of fascinating that he's still there given the lack of success that they've had there recently. Now, you bring up the Richardson thing. I was screaming about that the moment they drafted him, that they should not play him, and they did. And basically, Chris Ballard a few weeks ago was like, yeah, that was Jim Irsay's call. Yeah, it was Irsay that wanted to throw him out there. So maybe that's why there's been some grace with Ballard. I don't know. But the bottom line is, if they're really bad this year and Daniel Jones is a disaster and Richardson doesn't get any better and they're picking another quarterback, that whole operation in Indianapolis is probably starting over. You're probably finding a new head coach and you're probably finding a new general manager, and then you're going from there. So I don't buy that there's some, tanking going on in there in Indianapolis. I think they want this to work. I just have my doubts that it's going to.
Yeah, no, I think it starts from the top and it's trickled on down to the bottom. I mean, look at their roster construction. You got a mediocre offense. I mean, I guess you have a good running back in Jonathan Taylor. Your defense has been good and then slowly declining. And now I can't really point to any pieces on the defense that I think are true elite defenders. So it starts at the top. And if it really was Jim Irsay's call to start Anthony Richardson, then that's on ownership. But it's just, they're a disaster right now. As are most teams in the AFC South, but they particularly are a disaster.
615-737-1025, our phone number. A lot of your thoughts to get to on the Colts. We'll continue to look around the AFC South at this point in training camp as well. Coming up next, you're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Going through the AFC South, quarterback competition in Indianapolis. The Texans have shuffled their entire offensive line. Cam Robinson is in now. Larry Tunsil's gone. They drafted Ariante Ursary in the second round. So they've got a revamped, new-look offensive line. And, we've heard John McClain on this station discussing the Texans' offensive line from last year and how much of a problem it was. And now they've reshuffled that thing. So we'll see if it's meaningfully better. We'll see if it's just as bad as it was last year, or maybe if it's even worse. That's a huge question to me for them. Like, you feel good about Stroud. I think you feel good about their wide receivers. I feel really good about their defense. Like, I think their defense is really good. So they're clearly, to me, the best team in the AFC South. But the offensive line, if it's really, really good and they've changed it for the better, then maybe do you start to put them in the conversation with the Baltimores and the Buffaloes and the Kansas Cities of the world? Or if they don't, are they just the best team in a bad division? And by the time the playoffs come around, they're going to get smoked. So we'll see what happens with Houston. Jacksonville continues to be interesting to me. It's an entirely different regime in there now with Gladstone at the GM, Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. We had Charles Robinson on last week, and he kind of talked about the plan for Travis Hunter of how they could deploy him. And maybe it's not just as simple as he's playing 30 snaps on offense and 30 snaps on defense this week. Maybe it's more team specific and game plan based of this week we feel like we may only need him for 10 plays on offense, or this week we feel like we need him for 45 plays on offense and 10 plays on defense. Like, I'm interested to see how they handle that part of it.
Hunter is who we've been hunting up.
Darn right it is. But the Trevor Lawrence part of this is probably even more interesting to me than Hunter. Like, Lawrence, we're talking about a quarterback that has been paid a huge amount of money. He's got guaranteed money out the wazoo, and he's not going anywhere right now.
Right.
He is only 25. He'll be 26 in October. But doesn't this feel like you need to see it from him this year? Like, I saw Mike Tannenbaum was on ESPN the other day, and he started talking about how, like, if Lawrence doesn't improve this year, then Jacksonville needs to go ahead and draft another quarterback, which is going to be hard to do because they don't have first round pick next year from the Travis Hunter trade.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's the way they're going to go. But then he started talking about, like, do you get involved in the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes? But you can't just allow his point was you can't just allow Trevor Lawrence to be average to below average again this year and then just trot him back out there again, no questions asked, just because of the money that he's guaranteed. So I don't know how they're going to work through all that. I do know that this is a pretty massive year for Trevor Lawrence, or at least it should be.
Yeah, and they have the offensive pieces around him skill position-wise. Brian Thomas is a good young receiver. You obviously have Travis Hunter. Then you have your running back in Tank Bigsby, and I think they have another one. But you have the pieces around Trevor Lawrence skill position-wise that he can throw to and find and that can help grow, and he can help grow them. It's just a matter of, can he put that all together? And so far in his NFL career, he hasn't. I mean, he's been to a playoff game, one said playoff game, but other than that, he hasn't really done anything in the NFL. He's kind of just been an average quarterback, and the reason he got a bonus is because he was just the next quarterback in line, and the Jaguars didn't want to start all the way over. So it's massive for Trevor Lawrence to connect with those young receivers and skill position players, and if he doesn't, it's going to be a problem for Jackson.
What do we think about Liam Cohen?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's
former Wildcat.
That's kind of interesting to me, as far as, will it look different? Is he going to be able to unlock something from Lawrence that we haven't seen before?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how different it'll look, what they'll do with Hunter. I think it'll be interesting.
No, I do
just
too.
to at least see how it goes. But I'm interested to see Liam Cohen's impact, considering how, I don't know about hyped up he is, but, people seem to make it sound like he's the next offensive guy or one of them.
Yeah,
so
it's interesting because he gets a lot of credit, and deservedly so to some degree, for what Baker Mayfield did last year, right?
In Tampa,
like,
yeah.
Baker Mayfield He completed 71% of his passes, 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, 16 picks. So Mayfield obviously played really well for Tampa Bay last year.
But didn't he do okay under Dave Canales?
That's the thing. Like the year before that, his numbers were also really good. Like
Under
Dave
the
Canales,
it
got him the head coaching job in Carolina. So how
And then they
much of
hired
it
Cohen,
is
and it kind of kept going.
Yeah, like to his credit, it didn't just crater. So like he obviously was doing something right there. And you know, I don't know that I'm going to go as far as to call like Baker Mayfield just totally system proof. But you are talking about two different offensive coordinators in back-to-back years down there that have done well enough with him to land head coaching jobs around the league. So like I do think that you have to look at Baker Mayfield and be like, well, he's played pretty well with two different offensive coordinators, and that offense, you got Mike Evans and all these things. Like the big thing with Jacksonville that I am interested to see, like they've had basically no semblance of a running game, and do they have one this year? Because that may help Trevor Lawrence as much as anything else, is if you've actually got threats to run the football and you commit to it. Like I don't think there's been the commitment to it that you need to have. And I'm not saying you got to run the ball 50% of the time, but you gotta have some consistency to it where the defense has to think about it. And you're right. I mean, they've got Bigsby, they got Travis Etienne down there. Like they've got some good backs. At least I think they've got some good backs. So I'm interested to see how Cohen kind of handles that this year.
Yeah, I just watching Liam Cohen as the offensive coordinator in 21 for Kentucky with that Will Levis, Wan'Dale Robinson group, he did some good things. And then the next year, he did some awful things. And since then, it's been kind of, what is he going to do? And he's been fine, I guess, based on which system he's been. I just have a hard time believing he's going to make it as a head coach, especially given how raw he is. He's never had head coaching experience. And I get it. That's how the system works. You start as a coordinator, you make your way up to a head coach. But I just think he's too inexperienced at that position and too inconsistent as a play caller.
Well, and this all leads back to the Titans part of it, because I think what we've highlighted here is that they're in a division that is kind of in flux right now. Like I have no idea what the quarterback future looks like for Indianapolis. Trevor Lawrence, I'm starting to wonder, is he just not very good? Like, is that just what he is heading into this year? So it's a huge year for that. And Houston, I feel the best about Houston, obviously, with Stroud at quarterback. But even them, like there's some big question marks with their roster, particularly on offense this year. And they fired their offensive coordinator a year ago. So it's a long way of saying, this is a division that you look at. And even if it's not as soon as this year, if Ward hits, like if Ward is the guy you think he is, then it shouldn't take very long in this division for you to start to really compete for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because all these other teams are in flux in there too, when you're talking about Jacksonville and Indianapolis specifically. So it's a division right now for the Titans that if you have hit on your guy at quarterback, it should be one where you could turn things around pretty quickly based on the status of these other teams right now. Unless, Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson just come out and are amazing this year, and Travis Hunter is the greatest football player we've ever seen and just, single-handedly carries Jacksonville to the playoffs. Maybe we're having a different discussion at the end of the year. But just looking at the lens of it right now, it's a division that is in flux.
Yeah, it's such a quarterback lacking division. I mean, outside of CJ Stroud, you have Cam Ward, who's unproven. You have Trevor Lawrence, who's proven to be average, and you have a quarterback battle in Indianapolis, and neither of them seem to be very good. So you're right. It is, if you have your guy in Cam Ward, it should be pretty, I don't want to say easy because nothing is easy in the NFL, but it should be not out of the picture to compete for the AFC South with that quarterback.
Yeah, and again, I'm not even talking about as soon as this year, because I just think there are a lot of deficiencies on the Titans roster.
Yeah,
like there just are
too many holes.
But if you've got your quarterback and you continue to build the right way, it's not like you're playing in the AFC West right now or the NFC North, where you look around and you're like, man, all these teams are pretty good. Like that's not what the AFC South is right now.
Yeah.
And that should, like, if you're the Titans trying to build your team out, like, I think you are looking at the rest of your division right now and you're like, well, there's an opportunity here if we continue to make the right decisions and we found our guy at the quarterback spot. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Speaking of quarterback, a comment made on ESPN yesterday about a quarterback room in the NFL that is pretty amazing to think about when you actually put it into reality, if that's the way it's going to go. Schefter had himself a take yesterday. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley alongside Connor Newt and Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. We will be joined by Mike Wilson from the Knoxville News Sentinel coming up at 7:15. We'll get into Tennessee, the quarterback competition that has been won, and a bunch of other things with Mike coming up here in just a few minutes at 7:15. Gentry Estes from the Tennessean joining us at 8 o'clock. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with him, so looking forward to that. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. So Adam Schefter was on ESPN yesterday, and they were talking about the Browns quarterback situation. And we talked about this a little bit last week with Frank Schwab, just about the amount of attention that the Browns quarterback room and that Shedeur Sanders in particular are getting. And it was announced yesterday that Joe Flacco is going to be the starter for Cleveland. So not that that's a huge surprise. I mean, we've been talking about that for a few weeks, that it feels like Flacco is going to be the guy there. But you are talking about 4 quarterbacks of Flacco, Gabriel, Sanders, and Kenny Pickett when everybody's healthy. Now, they've dealt with some injuries, and they've had Tyler Huntley in there. I mean, it's been some musical chairs at the quarterback spot so far in training camp for the Cleveland Browns. But this is what Adam Schefter had to say yesterday on NFL Live on ESPN about the Browns, the quarterback room, and how he thinks they're going to handle this when roster cut-down day comes and they got to get the roster down to 53.
And the last thing I want to mention is, even though they named their starter today, we don't know the backup. I expect the Cleveland Browns to carry 4 quarterbacks.
So they will do that.
4 quarterbacks on their final 53-man roster.
Whew.
I expect they'll have 4 there. They're going to keep both rookies. They're going to keep Flacco. So we're really talking about Kenny Pickett.
What about Pickett?
And I expect he makes the roster because quarterbacks are currency.
What's the Wendy? When Adam says expect, somebody called him.
Or maybe the Cowboys trade for Kenny Pickett.
Or maybe somebody calls about one of the rookie quarterbacks.
Ooh.
So there you go. Schefter saying that he feels like they're going to keep 4 quarterbacks on the 53. Flacco, Pickett, Sanders, and Gabriel. I guess the Pickett one is really the one I don't understand in this. Like, when they drafted Sanders, like, that was clearly an ownership pick, right? Like, you could tell by the look on the faces of the Cleveland front office that, you know, Jimmy Haslam looked around and said, well, he's still available in the 5th round. You guys need to go take him. So I think that clearly is the way that went down. And look, Sanders, to his credit, he played well in the one preseason game that we've seen. You know, he got hurt after that, so we'll see what that looks like as he goes forward here. But you got Gabriel that you drafted in the 3rd round. So, look, you know Gabriel's going to make the team, drafting in the 3rd round. You know, Sanders, I've said this, is, you know, he was drafted in the 5th round. I don't think he's a 5th round type of player. Like, I think Sanders
he's better than
is better than that. So it's not surprising to me that they're keeping both those guys and that Flacco is going to be your starter. I just like, does Pickett not become a little bit more redundant at that point? Like, you've got your veteran guy in Flacco. You got the 2 younger guys behind him. My guess is, like, if Flacco doesn't work out and he doesn't play well and Cleveland's out of it at some point, they're probably going to turn to one of those 2 rookies anyway, right? Like, I doubt very seriously they're going from Flacco and then it doesn't work 10 games in. They're like, well, Kenny Pickett. Let's throw Kenny Pickett out there. It's probably going to be Flacco, and let's throw Shedeur Sanders out there, or let's throw Dylan Gabriel out there, or whatever it is. So I'm interested to see how they handle that. If they decide to keep all 4, does anybody call and want to trade for Kenny Pickett? Like, the moment they drafted Shedeur Sanders, after they had just drafted Gabriel in the 3rd round, that quarterback room became really, really interesting. And trying to navigate all that with your 53-man roster and trying to hold on to 4 quarterbacks at the same time, that part of it's going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah, I guess I just don't really understand. The only purpose that Kenny Pickett serves right now is to block up an opportunity for Shedeur, Dylan Gabriel. And I don't think the Browns are going to be very good this year. Joe Flacco is kind of just a placeholder starter. Like, he's just kind of carrying it to see what you got. And then I think he's 40, so I don't know how much gas he's got left in him. If he goes out, you're right. My guess is they're probably going to turn to Shador or Dylan Gabriel. So I don't understand why they would take 4 quarterbacks and probably only play 2 of them. Plus, I think there's that NFL rule where you can carry 3 quarterbacks and make 1 an emergency. How would that work for 4? Would you make 2 of the 4 emergency players and fill up that hole for another position of need? Like, that's one less defensive lineman you're taking or something like that?
I don't know. I mean, here's the thing, too, with Flacco. Like, Flacco had a good run 2 years ago with Cleveland, obviously, and he got him to the playoffs, and then the playoff game was a total disaster against the Texans. He was with Indy last year, and it didn't go very well. Like, they benched Richardson last year. At one point, they put Flacco in, and I think he went 2-4 as the starter. He threw for 12 touchdowns, 7 picks, 1,700 yards. Like, he was okay. He's 40. Like, in that roster, it needs work. It's not a horrible roster.
Who's their wide receiver 1?
That's a good
on
question.
Cleveland is
Jerry Jeudy or Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I think it is Jeudy actually.
Oh, no, Amari Cooper's in
was
Buffalo.
there.
Jerry Jeudy.
I think it's Jeudy, and I'm not sure that's ideal.
Yeah, I mean, he's good, but is he like a game breaker type guy? And their defense obviously led by Myles Garrett. Like, when you got Myles Garrett out there, you're gonna get after the quarterback. So, like, it's not, for as bad as they are, it's not a horrendous roster. It's just been so devoid of good quarterback play that it's been hard to maximize. And that's why people are talking about Stefanski a lot. Like, I believe Stefanski's a good coach, but the Deshaun Watson contract has just totally nuked them. Yeah. And it's been impossible to overcome. So look, I don't have very high expectations for Flacco at age 40, stepping into that job. I am, if and when they have to make that transition this year, I am going to be interested to see where they go, because clearly their front office liked Dylan Gabriel. I mean, they took him in the 3rd round. Shador Sanders was sitting right there, and they took Gabriel. So does he get the first look? Like, is Gabriel going to get the first chance if Flacco's not the guy? Is it going to be Sanders that gets the first chance? Are they actually going to go from Flacco to Kenny Pickett? Like, are all 4 of them going to start games for the Browns this year? It's real. I've never seen a quarterback situation quite like this one heading into an NFL season.
It really just does not make sense to me. Like, I think what Kenny Pickett is too. Like, I don't think he's much better than Joe Flacco. So, and obviously he's not, because we're talking about him getting cut. The Browns aren't going to come out and say that they want to move on from Kenny Pickett, because then that tanks their leverage. I think they're waiting to see who gives them a call about what. Maybe they move off of one of the rookie quarterbacks, although I think Kenny Pickett is more likely. It's just such a confusing situation to me. 4 quarterbacks, and I mean, obviously I expected them to start Flacco. He's the veteran with the most experience, and they feel like he gives them the best chance to win. Every team wants to win to start the NFL season. But I think they're quickly going to figure out that they're not that good, and they're going to be out of it pretty quickly. So, yeah, you're right. I'm very, very curious to see where they go after that.
Well, the other part of this, like, Pickett hadn't been able to play. Like, he's been hurt. He's had that hamstring injury that he's been dealing with, and he's not been out there. And look,
I do wonder if a team gets desperate.
Yeah.
If they get a training camp injury and you need a backup, do you want Kenny Pickett?
Right. And like, you're probably not going to have to give up a ton to go get him either, if that's the point, if that's that's the other part of that. So I don't know. It's an interesting situation that they've got brewing here. And I think everybody's just kind of waiting for the Flacco shoe to drop. And it's like, you hear Browns fans talking. It's like, all right, at what point is Flacco going to be out and Shador going to be in? Like, when is it going to happen? Is it week 3? Is it week 8? Is it week 12? Like, when's that going to happen?
Because they're going to have to keep them all on the active roster, right? Because you can't risk moving someone to the practice squad.
And somebody gets snatched up.
You can't, especially if it's Gabriel or Sanders.
Exactly.
You're not going to do that, because someone would take them.
Yeah.
But
so it's quite the
carrying
conundrum.
4 quarterbacks on your active roster every week.
You're sacrificing
just
a spot somewhere else. Yeah, like it's a really interesting situation that they're in. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Mike Wilson from the Knoxville News Sentinel will join us coming up next. We'll get into all things Tennessee Vols with him. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley alongside Connor Newt, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. Talking a little Vols, and to help us do that, we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our buddy Mike Wilson from the Knoxville News Sentinel. Mike, good morning. How we doing?
Good morning. I'm really happy to be on here. I mean, I'm so sad Joe's not here, but he's at the greatest place on earth, so I totally understand.
Yeah, it's Sparty lives on up there. I'm sure you are happy to be on when he's not on. Probably a bonus for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd rather be hanging out with him at Peanut Barrel or Crunchies in East Lansing, but not at 8 a.m. of course, but in the 8 p.m. hour. But yeah, no, this will suffice for now.
Absolutely good stuff. So, Mike, Tennessee has named their starting quarterback Joey Aguilar, which is not a huge surprise, but you watch his tape at Appalachian State. You look at the numbers. He has thrown a lot of interceptions in his career, and you look at Heupel and the quarterbacks that he's had, and there's not a lot of interceptions that have been thrown. So kind of that balance is going to be really interesting to me this year to see how that plays out. What do you make of Joey Aguilar being named the starting quarterback for Tennessee?
Yeah, I mean, I think it had to be the choice. He's obviously the really experienced player, the guy who's been in college for a good minute and played a lot of football, and right away that puts you ahead. He also brings some mobility there, some playmaking. The interceptions are a thing that people know about, but it's just honing that aggressiveness, right? Like it's putting that in the right place. And Josh Heupel talked about that last week. You do have to throw the ball in the tight windows. Like that's going to be a thing that has to be done as part of this offense. But it's hitting the window, not missing the window. And I think Joey Aguilar was the front runner going in. Makes sense. They had some battle there with a couple guys who, were here in the spring, and Jake Merklinger was here last year, but it's not a shock that Joey Aguilar edged out this early on in the process.
So kind of building on that, you look at the offense, they've lost a lot of starters from last year. There's a lot of, unproven spots on this team. And if you want to look at the offensive line, you can look at wide receiver. Obviously, quarterback, we'll see what the step up in competition looks like for Aguilar. But just in general with the offense, how are you feeling about it heading into the season? Now just a couple of weeks away from the Syracuse game.
Yeah, I mean, who's going to start at quarterback was one of the questions, but now there's other questions on the offense, and wide receivers foremost on that. I thought that unit was no good last year.
Yeah.
And then they obviously lost Dante Thornton, Brew McCoy, Squirrel White to the portal, a couple other kind of fringe guys to the portal. The depth there is not really existent. You're obviously counting on Mike Matthews becoming a star, which he was a 5-star recruit. So you hope that comes around. And Chris Brazel's back. I think he had 29-ish catches last year. So that's your leading returning receiver. And then it's a bunch of youth, redshirt freshmen and freshmen. So what are you going to get out of that position? I think you feel good about what you've got at running back. I think the offensive line has a shot. It's a lot of turnover, but I think it's got a shot to be good. I think tight end's got a shot to be good too. I think Miles Kitselman's a pro, and there's a couple of young guys there that are going to contribute, but it's wide receiver to me. Can the wide receivers be better than last year with way less than last year?
Mike, focusing in on the running back room, you have 3 players at that position that I think are capable of running an offense in the backfield. How do you think that room sort of elevates the offense when the wide receiver room is struggling, and maybe if your quarterback is even struggling?
Oh, I mean, you can make an argument that Dylan Sampson's the reason Tennessee got to the playoff last year. I mean, obviously the defense was tremendous, and that was the core reason. But when you're talking about the offense, the offensive reason is Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson covered up a multitude of weaknesses. I mean, I know it's punching down now that Nico transferred, but there was a reality that Nico was very poor last year in big games, and I think that's been more readily accepted by Tennessee fans since he left. But it was pretty clear as the season was going on that he was lackluster in big games. But Dylan Sampson covered up those issues at wide receiver as well. He was so good. So I think when you look at this year with Deshaun Bishop probably being the guy, Peyton Lewis, Star Thomas, you got Dwayne Morris is a really good freshman. Like that group has a chance to be the backbone of the offense like Dylan Sampson was last year. And Josh Heupel's cool with it. He's said it since he got hired, and people talk about his offense, want to run the ball, want to be balanced. And they've got a shot, I think, to run the ball really well because that's a good group of running backs. You got experience with Star Thomas, physicality with Peyton Lewis, and Deshaun Bishop's a nice little balance there. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what that group does.
So, Mike, Tennessee football announcing again that the tickets for 2026 are going to have an average of a 4% increase. I think it was like 4.5 from 24 to 25. It'll be 4 from 25 to 26. So another price increase. Saw a lot of reaction to that on social media yesterday from Tennessee fans. What do you make of all that? What do you make of the statement that Danny White put out there and the reaction from Tennessee fans?
Yeah, I mean, 4% is about the norm, it feels like, at this point for increases. Like you said, it was 4.5 last year. I think basketball went up 6.5 year over year on average, but there was some other math worked out in there of kind of bringing it to being equal across sections. That's kind of expected at this point. I mean, Tennessee isn't the most expensive ticket in the SEC. They're among them, but there's also the reality that Tennessee's been pretty dang good the past few years in terms of winning games. So you're paying for good football, you're paying for good teams, and it is the era of revenue, and everyone knows it. That's like it or not, like that's the era that everyone's in. And that's, Adidas is a thing at Tennessee now. Like it's a revenue era. Yeah. And tickets are part of that. But there's also a reality here for Tennessee. Fans are renewing their tickets. I think it was like a 98% renewal from 2024 to 2025 or something like that. So fans want in. I mean, people are staying on this. There's a waiting list. So it's also a game of supply and demand, and it's in the right direction for Tennessee right now.
So, Mike, you bring up the deal with Adidas. I'm interested to get your thoughts on that from not only the football perspective, but from the entire kind of athletic department. What do you think this deal will do for them just in terms of maybe recruiting, NIL expectations, all those things?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a big deal just from the revenue standpoint. And I think with the way that Tennessee kind of talked about it, and I saw some national reporters talking about it, like I think Ross Dellinger specifically, like this is kind of the new arms race in a way. It was facilities for so long before players got paid, but now you're pointing to this and saying, well, this is an influx of cash, and in a cash-driven era, that's really valuable. So that's part of it. The NIL stuff's a big deal. I mean, that's obviously something at the forefront of what Tennessee and Adidas worked out. Adidas preached that. They've got resources there. I don't know the impact on recruiting necessarily. I thought Josh Heupel had a great comment last week when asked about it, of just being like, I don't know if a guy who's chosen a school based on the apparel deal. That said, if I had been a good athlete in high school in the mid-2000s, I probably would have gone to Oregon for their apparel deal.
Oh, nice.
But again, I wasn't that. So no real athletes have chosen that Josh Heupel knows of. Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a good deal for Tennessee. I understand the reaction to some because people love Nike. But this was an absolute no-brainer, no choice about it. Tennessee made this move.
So, Mike, circling back on the roster in football, you had some question marks last year on the offensive line, but this year it seems to be more reinforced. You bring in one of the top true freshmen in David Sanders. How can the offensive line gel together and be an effective unit this season?
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee needed to turn that over. They lost a lot from last season, and the unit was good, not great. I thought Lance Hurd, to me, is where it starts now,
yep.
Left tackle, and he's shed 25 pounds. He's healthy. He feels more like the player he came into Tennessee to be. If he's that's a big deal because he struggled last year, and I think that was largely due to physical health and weight gain due to physical health. So we'll see what that brings about. But, you went out and got two interior guys, and Wendell Moe Jr., Sam Pendleton, they're probably going to start left guard, center. You really feel good about those guys as guys who played football at a high level. Jesse Perry looks like the guy at right guard, at least to open the season. Young guy, that should be good. David Sanders at right tackle. So I think you kind of know the 5-6 guys you're going to have involved. William Satterwhite's probably that 6th. So the guys are going to be involved. I think you feel good about where they line up. It's a different group. I mean, Tennessee turned over 4 of those spots, and that might be for the better in the end because I think they've upgraded at least 2 of those positions. So we'll see how it looks once the games get going, but I think it's got a shot to be a good unit.
So, Mike, last thing for you, like just generally looking at this team, I think there are a lot of people around the country expect them to take a significant step back. I mean, you may be in the 7-5, 8-4 type range, and it starts with the Nico conversation, obviously. I'm looking at the schedule, though, and, like, they're going to be favored in all but probably 3 games, like probably Florida, Alabama, and Georgia. They will not be. And other than that, they're probably going to be favored. So, like, if you're 9-3, 10-2, you're going to be in that conversation. So, with kind of all that in the backdrop, what do you think is fair in terms of expectations for this group this year?
Well, I will say this. I don't know if Nico and Joey subbing in the way that it did changes Tennessee's outlook this season because, and again, this is something I think that's been more readily accepted since Nico transferred. The guy didn't cover up weaknesses.
Yep.
Like he didn't make your team. He didn't make the wide receivers better by elevating their play. And you want that out of a quarterback. You want a quarterback who brings the best out of people and makes them into different players. If they're an 86 on EA Sports College Football, they make them into a 90, right? Like that's what you want out of a player there. So I don't know if the outlook's much different in my opinion. I think you're pretty right on there with those 3 games. Probably Arkansas, Oklahoma are those swing games on that schedule, but Tennessee gets both of them at home. And that's a big part of this. Tennessee's schedule lines up nicely, despite the fact it's Florida, Alabama on the road, like it is every other year with that. So it's a schedule I think plays well. Obviously, Syracuse is the opener on the neutral site in Atlanta. That's a winnable game. You go to Kentucky. But again, I think, when you look at it, there's 3 games there that you're like, those are tough games. Then there's a couple where you think, all right, well, those are the games that make the difference between 7-5, 9-3, and you get them both at home. So other than that, it's don't mess up throughout the rest of the season. You feel good about where you're at.
Well, Mike, really good stuff. I'm sorry that you didn't quite make it for the Oregon full scholarship offer back in the day, but we appreciate that you're joining us, and we love your perspective every time you're on. And we'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Hey, joining you guys is better than the scholarship to Oregon any day of the week.
He said it. Clip it up. That's right. Mike Wilson, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. We'll react to what Mike had to say coming up next. Take your thoughts on the Vols. A lot of Vols fans upset about the increase in season ticket prices. We'll get your thoughts on that as well. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best deal of the week is Bavarian Beer House, conveniently located at Opry Mills Mall. Enjoy beer, food, music, and fun at Nashville's only authentic German beer hall, where it's Oktoberfest every day. Head to thegamenashville.com/deals to get a $50 gift card for only $25 to Bavarian Beer House while supplies last. Taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025, our phone number. Appreciate Mike Wilson for being with us in the last segment. And he brought up a price increase there. So Danny White, Tennessee athletic director, sent an email out yesterday to season ticket holders. And it talked about an increase of an average of 4% across Neyland Stadium for the 2026 season. So they increased roughly 4.5% from 2024 to 2025, and now another 4% from 2025 to 2026 is coming. White said, quote, "Our goal is to give you ample to plan effectively, to take advantage of extended payment options, and continue supporting Tennessee football with confidence." Now, as Mike pointed out in the last segment, there's a waiting list for season tickets. The 10% talent fee, which got introduced last year, will also be in effect as well. So you're talking about a talent fee that's there, an increase in just the actual price itself that's going on. Tennessee's got the deal with Adidas, so they got that money coming in. So a lot of money flowing around up there in Knoxville. Danny White has made no secret about it. That's a big goal of his, is to really stockpile the athletic department with money. But Tennessee fans are pretty upset, at least the loud ones on social media, about yet another cost that they're having to incur. They are having to incur on this front. So, Connor, what do you make of this? What do you make of what is continuing to be more and more expensive for the average sports fan to go out there and watch some football games if you want to?
I mean, I get it. It's frustrating as a fan of college sports. I get it. But you also got to think we're in this new age of college football where you are quite literally, your ticket money and the money you spend on apparel is quite literally going into the pocket of the program. That becomes NIL money. That becomes money that is repurposed to grab recruits and all these other great things you love. And I liked that Mike mentioned the Adidas deal, because I think that is huge for the program of Tennessee. Not that apparel deal is going to recruit players, but that gives you what they were making $5 million annually.
That gives you money.
They're making $5 million annually with Nike. They're making $20 million annually now with Adidas. That gives you a lot more money and a lot more ways to broaden your horizons and grab these recruits across all sports. So I think while it is frustrating for the fan, for the common man that wants to go to Neyland Stadium and watch a game, or Thompson Bowling Arena, Food City Center, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Which I have come out of victorious of that building.
I'm sure.
While it is frustrating for the common people to go see a game in that stadium or for their program, I understand why, because you're trying to make as much money and increase the revenue of your program as possible. It's just kind of the state of college athletics at this point.
Well, bottom line is as long as people are paying it, they're going to keep doing it, right?
Yep.
Like as long as there's a waiting list, and as long as people are making money out here, and the athletic department is still in high demand, and specifically the football team is in high demand in terms of season ticket interest and all those things, like it's probably not going anywhere anytime soon. I'm not going to be surprised when we're reading a story this time a year from now, and it's so Danny White sent out an email about an average of 4% increase across Neyland Stadium from 26 to 27.
I mean, especially
what it is,
especially when you're good across all sports. Like football is obviously a traditional program that has come back on the rise since Josh Heupel's come here. Rick Barnes has surged basketball, and then your baseball team just won a national championship 2 years ago. So I get it. It's the price of being a good team or a good program.
Yeah, well, for sure. And you know, we know that football is king around there. Now, what is interesting about this, and I think this has led to kind of this discussion on Tennessee Twitter a little bit, which is, all right, well, you've got the new deal with Adidas that's coming next year. You've got this 10% talent fee that you're charging us, which again is not uncommon around college sports.
Yeah.
Like it's a thing now. But you got all these things happening. You got this huge apparel deal with Adidas. you better see a payoff for it, right? Like if you're a Tennessee fan, and I'm honing in really on football right here, but like football has been under Heupel like a top 10 type of recruiting base, right? Like it's top 10, some years are 12th. I think right now they're like right on the edge of 9th, 10th, depending on where you look at. Like, well, if you got all these talent fees and you got the new deal with Adidas coming in, there are Tennessee fans that look at it and say, yeah, top 10's not good enough. You better get in the top 5 of recruiting. Like if you got all this money and Adidas is supposed to make this big of a difference with NIL and all these other things you're talking about, well, we better see it. You better get out there and get yourself a top 5 recruiting class. So like that part of it is going to be really interesting in terms of, it's one thing to raise the money, and like Danny White has done a good job of that. And I know that there's a segment of Vol Twitter that does not like Danny White for doing all this stuff, but like, I get it. Like it's expensive, but that's the price of doing business nowadays. But like, I also understand the Tennessee fan part of it, which is like, well, if you're doing all these things, you better compete. Like you better get out there and like making the college football playoff should not just be a one-off thing. Like you better get back in there and you better do something with it when you get there. So that part of it is going to be, as the Adidas deal kicks in and as the price increases continue to go up, you're going to have fans screaming that from the mountaintops of, we better get some payoff for this if this is what you guys are going to do.
Well, I'm sure you also have fans that are saying, well, they have all these donors and millionaires that are pouring money into this program. Why do they need to increase ticket prices? And I'm to that, I respond, why don't you? You want to make as much money as possible. And I understand it, especially with the new age of college football. Tennessee's not the only program in the nation doing this. Kentucky just did it. Kentucky just raised their student ticket prices by like $200. So for a season, that is, not single one games, but I understand it. What I respond to fans that are mad about it is, if you don't want to pay it, don't pay it, but don't be mad when someone else next in line does pay it, because obviously this isn't going away. This is the state of college athletics. And if you want to get in, then that's just a price you have to pay.
Michael says the fans wanted a better product. The fans said, pay the players. Who did they expect would pay for the players? Surprise. It's the fans. Universities aren't paying out of the kindness of their hearts. The price gets passed on to us. And yeah, I mean, look, there's a bunch of things that have happened here. I mean, you've had the house settlement, you've got revenue sharing coming in. Like there's a whole lot of things that are kind of being added to the plate here of not just traditional NIL that really hasn't been in place for all that long either. Like there's a whole lot of things that are happening all at once here. And you got these huge apparel deals now, and I'm sure Tennessee and Adidas won't be the last one. Like you're going to see these things continue to get churned out.
Yeah.
In different spots over the next few years, and people switching and priorities shifting from these companies and where they're spending their money. So there's all that kind of in the backdrop of it here. But again, like, you know, I think the waiting list for Tennessee is what, 25,000 deep, something like that.
Yeah.
So
they're not starving.
If you believe that number, like that's roughly what they're looking at. So as long as there is that level of interest and that level of demand, some of it is just as simple as supply and demand out there.
Yeah. I mean, it's a business. It's not just a high school football game where you get in there for $5 to see your kid play. This is college athletics, which is slowly turning into professional sports. Minor leagues of some sort. Good on Adidas though for getting that deal done, because now Adidas has like a premier program football wise. Basketball, they have a top program. I would still argue Kansas is probably the lead horse in basketball for Adidas, but now Adidas football wise, you have a traditional program in Tennessee. And I mean, other than like maybe Nebraska, which hasn't been relevant in 20 years, I can't really think of anyone else that reps Adidas that's that prominent like Tennessee is.
615-737-1025, our phone number. We have the Rob Rant coming up here in just a few minutes at 7:45. Gentry Estes from the Tennessean will join us at 8 o'clock. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with him. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Hey, Robbie Stanley here. Fantasy football right around the corner, and Twin Peaks is your spot for your fantasy football draft party. When you're not on the clock, league members can sit back and relax with one of Twin Peaks' refreshing 29-degree beers. You can order for the whole team the Peak Sampler, double stack nachos, loaded fries, multiple flavors of boneless wings. They've got it all. So make sure to call to book your draft party at the Twin Peaks in Cool Springs or Madison locations, or visit twinpeaksrestaurant.com/fantasy draft for more information.
Don't make me angry. Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
Elsa. What's the snowman name?
Olaf.
Olaf.
Am I a clown to you, Mike? Joe, how far do you throw this golf ball, you reckon?
If my zipper's up, I feel like I'm in style.
You know, it's kind of like being half pregnant. You know, forget that. We're all in. So we're fully pregnant now.
There's soil everywhere.
If I ever could choke some cartoon characters, it'd be them.
And
Kristoff, all them.
I've got other words I can say, but I'm going to hold those off. It is that time of the day. Time for the Rob Rant here on the program. You can check it out every morning here on the show, either the Rex Rant or the Rob Rant. We'll have Gentry Estes from the Tennessean coming up at 8 o'clock. So I want to comment today. We had some people asking about this yesterday, so I figured I'd just go ahead and rant about it because why not? I feel like I'm going to be ranting about this for the end of time. So the Big Ten has reportedly considered an idea of expanding the college football playoff to either 24 or 28 teams. And, Pete Thamel, among others, came out with this the other day and started talking about this and said, oh, well, the idea, very early stages, but it's not like they've gone very far down the road on this, but the idea would basically eliminate conference title games and offers just an absolute ton of automatic bids for Power 4 league. So we've talked about the automatic bid part of this. It's annoying. The Big Ten, I guess, is just not going to let this go when it comes to how many automatic bids that they want. But I just want to start on this. I remember when we had the conversation about expanding the playoff from 4 to 12, which I hated at the time and still hate, but I've accepted that it has gone to 12 and that 12 is what it is. And honestly, the 12-team playoff last year, it was fine. I didn't think it was great, but it was fine. I'd like to see him just hang out at 12 for a little while here and see how it goes. I know that that's not going to happen and that not too far in the distant future, we're getting to 16 one way or the other. If they go beyond 16, I may have to quit doing this job. I might. I just cannot stand it. And I remember one thing I said when we talked about expanding the playoff from 4 to 12 was it will never be enough for these people. It will never be enough. If you expand it to 12, the 13th, 14th, 15th place teams are going to feel like they're the ones that are on the outs.
Yep.
And they're going to whine about it. And some conference is going to whine about it. If it gets to 16, you're going to keep whining about it to the point where the Big Ten is already thinking about 24 or 28. Think about that for a second. A 24 or 28 team playoff in college football.
If you are ranked, you are getting it.
It makes me physically sick
for rich people
to think about
it's
this.
Never enough.
Well,
it's just never enough. Always want more.
But does there not have to, though, come a point here at some point along the way where you look at it and say, we are totally destroying our product? Like the idea of a 24 or 28 team playoff. And look, I am hopeful that this is just some stupid cockamamie idea that some random person in the Big Ten has concocted in their head, and that it's nothing more than that, and that there's not going to be any ounce of serious consideration given to this by the Big Ten or elsewhere. But I wouldn't be surprised, because it's never enough. Like, it's never enough for these people. And it's, as a college football fan, like, look, there are things in my sporting fandom that I love. I love the NFL. I really like the NBA, especially when my team's in it with the Heat. Like, I like watching. I love going to a Major League Baseball game.
Yeah.
But if I had to hand pick the two things in sports that I love the most, it's the college football season and the Stanley Cup playoffs. Those are the two things in sports that I just absolutely love.
Poor golf.
The absolute most. Golf is in there too, but it's a long season. So there are certain things about those things that have always mattered. The regular season in college football has always mattered. And that has been what separated it from a lot of different things. And if they get to 16, much less 24 or 28, you're talking about a regular season. It just gets so diluted at that point.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate this. The fact that they're even mentioning 24 or 28 in the same sentence as college football playoff expansion makes me physically ill. And I hope at some point common sense prevails, but it hasn't yet. So
Nope.
I don't know why I think it's going to at some point.
No, I mean we're on our way to 16. It's imminent, I think. And I think it's dumb that we're expanding in the first place. I'm with you. I'm used to the 12-team playoff now. I've accepted it, but I still don't like it. I miss the 4-team when the regular season was special. There was very little to no margin of error. And I think that goes across for all sports too. Like the NCAA tournament in basketball, they're talking about expanding it to 76 to 80 teams. So why don't we just let everyone in? Why doesn't every team that has a winning record just get in at this point?
One thing the NFL has done has changed the way leagues look at trying to make money.
Yes.
As far as TV contracts.
Yes.
It's no longer gate sales. It's no longer ticket sales. It's not concession stuff. It's not jerseys. It's how much money can you make from your TV contract.
Correct.
And that's all these college guys care about, is trying to sell the playoff to the next big TV contracts so they can get their money. The NFL doesn't have to sell a single ticket, and they all make money. We had a caller yesterday bring that up. I apologize, I can't remember his name, but we had somebody bring that up yesterday. These guys don't need to sell a single ticket in the NFL to not make 400 something million per season and just in profit, just from TV. So that's what that's what all these leagues have shifted their mindset to, is how can we get the most from the TV contracts? And that's all they care about.
Yeah. I mean, they're throwing out, like, in Thamel's piece at ESPN, he's talking about this 2018 format for the college football playoff that would put the top 7 teams, 7 auto bids from the Big Ten and the SEC, and the ACC and Big 12 would each get 5. So you're talking about 7 auto bids per conference.
They just want the teams who will get eyeballs.
It's amazing.
They don't care about who deserves to get in. They want the teams who they know people will watch. And Big Ten and the SEC always have the highest TV ratings in the biggest college markets. So that's who gets the most teams in.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, for sure.
The Big Ten is also on this obsessive quest to prove that they are a better conference top to bottom than the SEC. And Tony Batiti, I think, is part of the reason, because he keeps proposing these cockamamie playoff ideas like this one. And then he had the other one that was a weird format. It wasn't 5-11. It was something other than that, but it was wild.
Oh, it's the 4-2-2.
4-2-2. Yeah, which was ridiculous, and everyone hated except for him. They're on this quest to prove that they're best top to bottom and get more teams in. Like, they want to see their Iowas and their Nebraskas and their mid-tier Big Ten teams get in, because the middle-tier SEC teams get in.
And again, like, I know when I ask this question, some of it is just going to be subjective. Well, tell me whether or not my team's in. But, like, does any college football fan actually want this? Like, is there a college football fan out there that says, oh, yeah, 2018 playoff? Sign me up for it. That'd be awesome. And is there not some point where that has to matter? Like, doesn't it have to matter at some point if nobody wants it in your fan base?
TV ratings.
Yeah, I know.
When the games play and it's, Iowa State versus, I don't know, Utah State in the playoff. What are the ratings for that?
Yeah,
and then
that's the thing.
We'll get people will watch, and then we'll get our answer.
Hey, look, I'm a culprit here, because you put Tennessee, and Tennessee's not a great example, but you put a high-level college football game on
SEC
somewhere, I'll probably watch it. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm part of the problem here. Sometimes it's kind of amazing to me we can't look around and say, yeah, that's not a good idea. Like, we need a common sense coordinator for all of these enterprises here. Just a common sense coordinator. That's what I'm going to call it.
I like it. I like that name. That's a good name.
That's what we're going to go with. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Gentry Estes from the Tennessean will join us coming up next. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with him. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley alongside Connor Newt and Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning, talking some Titans. And to help us do that, we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome into our friend Gentry Estes from the Tennessean. Gentry, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning to you guys.
Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. Gentry, a little bit of a scuffle, I guess, yesterday between Cam Ward and Jeffrey Simmons. And, you know, I said it earlier in the show. I mean, I don't really want to make too much of a deal of this other than I would like for my defensive tackle to not touch the quarterback. That would be awesome. And that would be a real shame for the quarterback to get hurt in a scuffle at practice. But other than that, I don't know if it's a huge deal. Jeffrey Simmons was tweeting about it last night as well. But what do you make of the reported scuffle between Jeffrey Simmons and Cam Ward at practice?
Yeah, I'll agree that you don't want anyone to be touching your quarterback out there. That's something that could turn out pretty poorly. So there's a reason he wears the red jersey. But that said, I mean, I was following a lot of the reports in this, and look, you're talking about a team that went 3-14 last year. For the last few weeks, everybody's been bemoaning the lack of energy on the practice field. And they went to Atlanta last week, the first joint practice, got it absolutely handed to them.
Yep.
So maybe it's about time for something like this.
Yeah, I mean, that's a way to look at it for sure. And, like, you know, again, Cam Ward, I don't necessarily want him in the middle of an NFL game in the face of a defensive tackle. That may not end well for him at some point, but, you know, I kind of like showing a little bit of a fire that way. And then on the Simmons front, just keep your hands off the quarterback there. But you bring up the practices last week. What have you made of just the overall body of work? And we'll keep it to the offensive part of the ball for the sake of this discussion right now. At this point in camp, are they making as much progress as you thought they might? Are they well behind where you thought they would be? How do you kind of view the offensive part of this?
Probably about where I would have thought, just because I think the O-line has been maybe even a tick better than I would have expected. That's been the one area of the team this preseason that kind of that I think is they're clearly better than a year ago. I do feel like at the O-line, I think Skoronski, Latham have both had good training camps. Dan Moore was a good addition. Zeitler was a good addition. So I think the O-line has come together, and I think you've seen that a little bit, some in the preseason game so far where Ward hasn't been touched while he's been out there. So that's given what the O-line has looked like around here the last few years, that's encouraging. But you talk about the rest of the offense, it's a work in progress at receiver after Ridley. And I think you kind of knew going in that the Titans were going to try real hard to get these rookie receivers involved. That's certainly been happening. And I feel like the longer you go here, they would probably like to see those two rookies develop more and more a larger role into the offense, as opposed to your Tyler Lockett, Van Jeffersons. And I think that'll continue to be a work in progress. I'd include Gunnar Hellman on that as a guy who has been good as a pass catching target as well. But that's a lot of young players. And I think that's kind of a theme as you go along the entire roster right now. The Titans have a lot of young players that they're asking to take on a larger role than would probably be good for most teams this early in their career, but that's how this is going to go.
Gentry, you look at the AFC South, and Robbie and I kind of touched on this earlier, but curious to have your opinion on this. You look at the AFC South, the Texans obviously have their quarterback. Colts are in a quarterback battle with Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, probably setting them back in the quarterback market for a little while. The Jags are in mediocre land with Trevor Lawrence for a while. If Cam Ward hits, and obviously I don't think we'll know the answer to that this year unless he does something absolutely spectacular, but if Cam Ward hits, do you think the Titans are closer to competing for the AFC South than we originally thought?
It can't hurt. I mean, I think really the big hope, if you look at this season and say, what could possibly happen for this team to be a lot better than everybody thinks, to be competitive in the AFC South, it's clearly Cam Ward. That's the one thing. A quarterback can change everything for you, and that's kind of the hope at this point. That said, I don't – the division is what it is, but I feel like Houston's probably a bridge too far for the Titans this year. At this point, this is the time of the year for hope, and Cam Ward is certainly what people can look at for that. But this team isn't very good right now. They just aren't. And I've not really seen a lot this preseason to convince me otherwise on that.
So I'm with you on that. So let me ask it to you this way. What do you need to see from the Brian Callahan part of this year to convince you that he is the right guy for this job? Because I hear everybody throwing out continuity, and continuity is great, but continuity is not great if the guy that you're continuing with isn't any good. So what do you need to see from Brian Callahan this year to show you that the Titans have got a clue and that he's the right guy moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, that obviously winning games, but to me, it's more from the standpoint of, can you stop beating yourself? I mean, they were a poorly coached team last year.
Exactly.
And you saw it every single week. They would find new ways, it seems, to lose games. Just, and as you go back, if you go back and watch last season, which again, I don't really recommend that, but I feel like, it was every game they would try to get something going. They try to get a big player, some momentum, and there'd be this huge penalty, or they'd take the right tackle would hold somebody, or they'd take a sack, or, special teams was a disaster all season. The most alarming thing about that to me was you had issues on that team that were never corrected. Special teams all year was a problem.
Yep.
These little penalties and turnovers and self-inflicted mistakes all year was a problem. If that happens again, that to me is the biggest red flag. If they're able to get away from that, it'll probably mean a few more wins, just if you can stop beating yourself. And then maybe you get a little momentum. So the biggest thing I think they're going to be looking for, and what I would be looking for, is how does this team improve? I feel like the schedule's pretty rough at the start. It may not be very good for a while. Rookie quarterback, a lot of young players. But are they a lot better in December than they were in September? That to me could be the issue if, unless you're winless when Vrabel comes to town and get blown out, maybe you get fired that game. I don't know.
So on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, I'm looking at inside linebacker Gentry, and I'm thinking maybe they're a little bit better there than I originally thought on paper. I'm looking at the secondary, and I've got my concerns about what we've seen from them to this point, and that's not even factoring in the L'Jarius Sneed situation. And then, of course, I just can't get over edge rusher with this team and how just devoid of talent they are on that spot right now. So having said all that, what have been your impressions to the defense to this point, and what's your confidence level that they can play decent winning level football when the regular season comes around?
Yeah, I mean, you just need more dudes on that side of the ball. You just do. I think what impressed everyone so much about Cedric Gray during the last preseason game is that he flashed. He did something to flash. Rushing through, hitting the running back, getting a. I mean, he made some plays that you're not seeing very many guys on this defense. Just individual plays that they can go make. You mentioned, I think, the real concerns here. You're talking about a defense that at this point isn't going to be that effective getting to the quarterback, I don't think, and I'm not sure they can cover when they don't. That's not a real good combination.
No, it's not.
So I think that's the concern. Now, can you find? I think it's going to be a big part of this when you get to cut down day. The Titans have the waiver priority in the league, so my guess is they probably go for an edge rusher first on that. Maybe a corner. I think it'd be one of those two spots. And so, can you find someone who's able to really go out there and help you? And I think, you mentioned L'Jarius Sneed. I mean, somebody asked me about a week ago. It's like, what would you need to see in the next 10 days, to think this is going to be better? I said, I'd like to see L'Jarius Sneed on the football field.
Yeah.
At some point, I would like to see him practice for the Titans. And, we're sitting here right toward the end of training camp. He's still not practicing. He's still not doing anything. You wonder if at this point you're ever going to get anything out of that guy. And you sure could use him right now because, Jarvis Brownlee's a good player and he had a good rookie season, but that's asking an awful lot of a guy in his second year who's a 5th-round pick to step up and take the role he's going to have on this defense.
Gentry, you look at staying on the defensive side of the ball. You look at the run pressure that the defense provides. And it's been a lot of talk, mainly from Denard Wilson, about how no one will run on the Titans this year. They're going to be great in stopping the run. Is that a legitimate possibility with the guys they have on the field right now? I mean, Jeffrey Simmons and Tavondre Sweat, but outside of that, the depth, is that legitimately a possibility?
But that no one runs on the Titans?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with Robby on that one.
I wish they'd shut up about that. My God.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, let's go win some games and see how that looks like. And, the run defense should be pretty good with what they have in the interior of the defense. And I do feel like from an edge rusher standpoint, they've got guys that are probably better at setting the edge and playing the run than they are getting to the quarterback. So I guess I understand where that's coming from, but time for that team to go do it and stop the talking.
There's no doubt about it. Gentry, awesome stuff as always, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. We will talk to you soon, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you bet. Take care, guys.
Gentry Estes from the Tennessean, our guest on Robby and Rexrode. Lots of stuff to react to there from Gentry. We will do that coming up next. Take your thoughts on the Titans at 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Be a hero and save a life tomorrow at the 12th annual Williamson County Battle of the Badges Blood Drive. The drive will be held at Brentwood Concord Road Library tomorrow from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. 102.5 The Game will be on hand from noon to 2 with some swag to give away and chance to win free concert tickets as well. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025. Appreciate Gentry Estes from the Tennessean for being with us in the last segment. Wes and Hermitage texting in. Says, honest question, is L'Jarius Sneed playing in week 1? Like, is there any possibility that happens? I mean, I would say there's a possibility that it happens. It's a fair question to wonder whether or not he's going to. I think the more important question is, even if he does, what's he going to look like? Like, what is he going to be? Is he going to have does he look anything? And I mean anything like the all-pro level corner that they were getting from Kansas City a couple years ago? Because to me, that's a huge difference. Like, if he's just some dude out there, then this secondary might be in some trouble, particularly if they can't get to the quarterback. If he's that guy, which is becoming less and less realistic to me that he's ever going to be that guy again. But if he's anything close to what he was in Kansas City on the field, that's a pretty darn big difference maker for this Titans defense. But I can't even allow myself to get there in the conversation of him getting back to being that guy. I'm more, I think, probably in Wes's camp of, is he actually going to be on the field by the time week 1 rolls around? But even if he is, I mean, my expectations, admittedly, for him coming into all this are extremely low. That's just me.
Well, yeah.
Extremely low.
I mean, he hasn't practiced all summer. Like, we have not seen him on the practice field at all this camp. He's still battling that injury, which we still have. I mean, they tell us one thing and then it turns out to be another, and then they tell us it's another. So I've given up on trying to figure out what's wrong with L'Jarius Sneed. But I'm with you, Robbie. I don't think he'll be the same at all. I don't expect him to be a high-level corner like he used to be. Much less do I expect him to even see the field. I expect him to be on the field if he's able to, but I don't expect him to be on the field for week 1 just because I don't know if he's even going to play. Like, I don't know what's going on with him. He's got his legal issues. He's got his injury he's still battling, but it's unfair for me to expect him to even be on the field for week 1.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great to see him get on the practice field before the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to see him at least do that first, right?
Is
he still on PUP?
Yeah, like I think it would be.
So, I mean, he's not even off PUP, and he's not even on the field. He's not doing individual. He's not doing anything yet.
He's not playing.
So that's gonna be a stretch.
Yeah, like it's just hard to get there. But you ask the Titans and Denar Wilson about it, and it's like, oh yeah, I mean he's our starter when he's back out there. It's like, okay, well,
they don't.
Is that ever going to happen?
They don't seem to think he needs to practice at all. At least that was the plan last year, anyways.
Yeah.
During the season, I don't even know if he really practiced. So I guess they're assuming he can. I don't know about going all off season and not doing anything on the field and then trying to play. That doesn't sound great.
Well, it's just even if he's physically able to get out on the field and play in week 1 after having done that, I again come back to, okay, well, at what level? Because it's really hard. It's almost impossible for me to imagine that he's just going to not do anything for the entire summer and the entire offseason and not be on the field with the team at all in training camp or practice. And then you just expect him to go out there in week 1 and, shut down Cortland Sutton. Like, what are we doing? Like, do we think that that's a real possibility?
I can't get there whatsoever. I can't even get to the point of him playing in week 1, much less going out there and being a all pro level corner. I don't know. I think L'Jarius Sneed, I don't want to say the Titans era is over because I think he will see the field at some point this season, but I think the L'Jarius Sneed that the Titans thought they were trading for is gone. I don't think they'll ever see that level of defense from him again. I don't think he'll ever be that kind of player again. And that's just what I think about it. I don't know, but you kind of need him to be, in a way. The lack of corner depth that this team has, you kind of just need him to be available at this point. Like, you need him out there because other than him, and Jarvis Brownlee and Roger McCreary, you don't really have anything in that corner room. So you kind of need him to just be available.
Coy in Clarksville texting in says, what are the real expectations for Cam Ward? Remember, no quarterback in Titans history has thrown for 4,000 yards. I say 3,200 yards, 28 touchdowns, 18 picks. Well, from a yardage standpoint, I mean, look, let's say 3,200 yards is your bar, and he's healthy for all 17 games. That's 188 a game, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like you'd like to see more than that, but I also look at the receiving core right now, and as Gentry said in the last segment, it feels like it's Calvin Ridley and a bunch of dudes. And I think Titans fans are allowing themselves to get a little too excited about Io Manor and DK.
Yeah.
Because they want to get excited about Io Manor and DK. Look, I like Io Manor specifically. Like, I think he's a good player. I think he was a good player in college. And I think he can be a part of this receiving core and give you some production. I don't know that he's ever going to be wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 on this team. Maybe he could get to that point. But I still think we're a long way away from seeing the finished product of this receiving core. Whoever is going to be like Cam Ward's go-to guy when Ridley phases out. And, we'll see how much gas Ridley's got left in the tank. But he's in his 30s now, so we'll see how long that stays that way. But when Ridley gets phased out, like that next guy's not on the roster yet.
Yeah.
Maybe the next 2 guys, maybe wide receiver 1 and 2 may not be on the roster yet.
And those come through the draft.
Yeah.
You're not going to find that level of player in free agency because those kind of guys don't get out to free agency. They're paid immediately. Look at Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is arguably the best wide receiver in the league, and they paid him a boatload of money just so they could retain him. Granted, I think the expectations for the Bengals roster and the Titans roster are vastly different. The Bengals are a much better team. But my point is, guys like that don't get out often. So you're going to have to look to spend an early pick, first or second round, on that guy for Cam Ward.
Well, and the other part of that is, like, you take a look at where they're at receiver right now. Like, Ridley is going to have to get the ball a lot this year, but he's all like, the other team also knows that. So until somebody on the roster like forces you to pay attention to them, if you're a defense, like, it's going to be, I'm not going to say it's impossible to get Ridley the ball because you can get him the ball, but like the idea of Cam Ward throwing for 4,000 yards as currently constructed with this roster is just going to take a monstrous season from Calvin Ridley, probably, for him to hit that number. I don't know that, hopefully eventually, I mean, you draft him number 1 overall. It's 2025 in the National Football League. 4,000 yards is not the same thing it used to be in the NFL of hitting that benchmark and throwing for that. There's an extra game, all those things. So you hope Ward eventually gets there. I mean, honestly, this year, if he got anywhere near 3,500 yards, I'd be like, yep, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great.
And that's where you I think some of the excitement for Io Manor and DK comes in, because you want that kind of second guy. And both of them have kind of shown flashes of being capable of doing that. I think you're right. You're going to have to expect a lot out of Calvin Ridley to move the ball down the field. But when he gets doubled, I think that opens up opportunities for your Tyler Lockett or your Alec Io Manor, or even Van Jefferson.
And then they got to go win.
If he can go catch the damn ball. Then you got to win, which I don't think they're going to do a lot of this season. But
well, I'm talking about, like, just when those guys are going to get, whether it's Lockett, whether it's whoever, they're going to get single coverage opportunities. They're going to get one-on-one matchups. Can you win them with enough regularity to be a legitimate threat out there? Like, you got to go win your routes. You got to go win your one-on-one matchups and go get the ball for your quarterback. Because if you can do that, that opens up everything else. And I know people are excited about Gunnar Helm. I am too. We'll see what that looks like when the regular season comes around. I love the catch he made the other night against Atlanta, but like, I still think, the tight end, I still look at, until proven otherwise in a regular season game, of, I don't know how much in the passing game you're going to be getting out of those guys.
Well, you would hope Helm is a big red zone help.
You would hope so.
You know, between the 20s, I don't see Helm being a big yardage guy, right?
Yeah.
But touchdown wise, I could see that. I mean,
I know it was backups the other night, but
that was a nice catch.
Going up to get that ball
in
with
double
guys
coverage
draped all over you was pretty good.
And I did see Corey Curtis brought this up yesterday. I did see a still shot of the defender.
Yeah, his eyes were covered.
He like legit had his arms around Helm's kind of like face mask area, and you could see him kind of Helm kind of peeking through and was able to locate the ball.
Impressive.
So it was a nice catch. And so if that can be a sign of things in the red zone, I think that could be key.
Dennis on the text line says, I remember convincing myself that Roydell Williams, Courtney Robby, and Lavelle Hawkins were total steals.
The Hawk.
I am not getting excited about 2 mid-round wide receivers. I've learned my lesson.
Forgot about Roydell Williams. That's a good throwback right there.
Dude, I used to love Lavelle Hawkins. Like, I'd get out there and I remember he hurdled somebody in the preseason.
Yeah, he did.
I was like, oh, yeah, baby. Get the ball to Lavelle Hawkins as much as possible. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Take more of your thoughts on the Titans. More of those to get to coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Connor Newt, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. I got some tickets to give away. A pair of tickets to Holiday World and Splash and Safari in Santa Claus, Indiana. To caller number 3, 615-737-1025. Caller 3 will win a pair of tickets to Holiday World and Splash and Safari in Santa Claus, Indiana. 615-737-1025. Talking all things Tennessee Titans. The YouTube chat is flowing. Keep them coming. Jacob on YouTube says, they're not the same player, but I'm almost reaching Traylon Burks levels of apathy towards L'Jarius Sneed. It feels like he's just collecting checks from the Titans. He's going to contribute next to nothing this year. Logan on the text line says, what kind of message are you sending to guys that work their butts off all preseason and you sit them to play a guy who hasn't seen the field in almost a year? They best not have him out there week 1. If he gets torched, they're going to look very silly. I don't really mind that part of it. Like, I mean, I think the players know the score. They know L'Jarius Sneed, his contract, all those things, what he's done in the league. So, like, I don't think it would be I don't think they'd view it some type of way if he went out there and started for him in week 1. But again, like, beyond all that, my question is just how good is he anymore? And are we going to see him at any point? That's what it comes down to with Sneed. And, Gentry was talking about the defense. I mean, right now, where they are at edge rusher, and I know he talked about the waiver wire, and maybe they go claim an edge rusher, a corner, maybe one of each out there, and those guys can come in and make a difference. We'll see. But I'm looking at their lack of production, demonstrated production at edge rusher. And then if Sneed's not out there, and even if he is out there and he's not close to the same player he was, what they've got in the secondary right now. And as Gentry put, on one hand, you've got what looks like an inability to get pressure on the quarterback. And on the other hand, you've got what looks like maybe an inability or at least a struggle to cover guys very long.
Yeah.
Like when you add those two things up, that's not good. That's not what you want from your defense.
It's a lack of depth. I mean, we kind of hammered this one out ad nauseum. The Titans have no depth at either position. So I don't think that's an easy fix this year. I don't think they're going to go to the waiver wire and just claim an all-pro caliber player.
Oh, and not even just the depth. How good are their starters?
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, we kind of talked about it yesterday. Outside of the safety depth and you have 2 solid defensive tackles, there's nothing. So it's not it's just lack of talent on the roster. And I think that's going to be the story of the season for the defense, at least, is just everyone is not that good. And this team is not that good. So L'Jarius Sneed, like I said, I think he needs to be available just because of the lack of depth they have. Not that he's going to be the same caliber of player that he was when he won a Super Bowl with Kansas City, but he's a body to have out there, and he is a capable NFL cornerback. That said, I don't know if he's going to be healthy or even available or win this season. Like, there's no timetable for him to be available.
Well, I keep the pass rush to me, like they really need, first off, they need Simmons to be really productive there.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. Number two, they need Draymond Jones to have a career year. They need Arden Key to have a career year. Now, like, I'm not joking about it. They need that, because if they don't get it from those two guys, like, it's hard to really figure out where that pressure is coming from. And if, I don't really care how good your secondary is, unless you're just talking about like Deion Sanders in his prime all over the place out there.
Yeah.
Like, the guys, there's a limitation on how long you can cover these NFL receivers, right? Like, very rarely do you look into a play and the quarterback's got 8 seconds to throw the ball and all the receivers are just jammed up. Like the nobody's creating separation.
Yeah.
So if you can't get after the quarterback, I keep coming back to that with this defense, of just the fundamental flaw of it. And we'll see, like, we've not seen those guys all out there together in a game yet. Like, Simmons hadn't played in the preseason. He and Sweat are going to be a big part of it. I do want to look and see what the starting what the starting lineup looks like and how productive those guys can be. But on paper, it's just not a very strong group. And I just think when you have that, you got to do so many different things if you're Denard Wilson to try to put some semblance of pressure on the quarterback that it takes you out of maybe what you really want to do back there on defense. So like that I think that's going to be something that from the opening snap this year, we're going to be paying really close attention to here, which is just can they at all generate pressure? Like when week 1 rolls around, do they make Bo Nix uncomfortable with any sort of regularity in that game?
And I think another thing you got to look at is Femi Oladejo ahead of schedule like they've told us he is? Because they've ranted ad nauseum.
The answer to me right now is pretty clearly no, based on what I've watched.
In the preseason, he has been very ineffective. I mean, he can't get past a block. It's been bad. And I think I'm conflicted on that because on some level, I know he's a project player that they drafted and they want to develop him over time. But at the same time, that's a second-round pick that you invested in. Second-round picks you usually hope would be, somewhat effective in the pass rush. T'Vondre Sweat, I get, because he's a defensive tackle and he's a run-stuffing defensive tackle. I get why he doesn't hit the quarterback that much. But a second-round edge rusher, granted, I know he just converted from inside linebacker to the outside, but you still hope that he can be somewhat effective in hitting the quarterback. And I don't think he's on schedule. I think he is behind.
Well, we'll see. And like the thing is, he's going to have to play, and it's how quickly can he learn? Like how quickly can he pick it up? Because I do look at him, like I look at Oladejo, and like physically, you get it. Like he's like, okay,
absolutely.
Like he's got some explosiveness to him. Like he's got, obviously the body type that you're looking for. He's got some good speed, good athletic traits. So I get all that. Like that all makes sense. How quickly in an NFL regular season game setting does he figure out the nuances of playing that spot? Because, I mean, look, it's not just pinning your ears back and trying to run past people. Like, how's the hand placement look? Like, when they're running games and stunts, how effective is he at running what he's supposed to run, picking up his responsibilities? How effectively does he set the edge in the run game out there to start? That's a big part of it. Like, you want him to be out there and be playing every down for you. So, like, there's so much that goes into it that I'm going to be really fascinated to see what he looks like, how he plays from the opening jump. But like, I think he needs to play. Like, maybe he's probably not going to start at this point, right? Like I think
he'll rotate,
but like he needs to be involved in the rotation out there. Like what I don't want to see is like Femi Oladejo. Well, he's active, and then you end up looking at the snap counter later, and he's played like 4 snaps in the game. It's like, all right, well, what is he getting better? Like what's that doing right now?
Yeah. I mean, you kind of have to. I think he's one of those players that I think skill-wise will get better over time based on the level of play he's experienced. Not just in a game setting, but in a season-long setting. Like if he goes out there this season and has 5 sacks, then I feel pretty good about it.
I would sign up for that right now.
Yeah.
Because I've got my doubts he's going to get to that.
Right.
But I would sign up for that right now.
I don't think he'll get past 3. I don't know if he'll even get 2. But I think he is one of those players, and I think the Titans have quite a few of them on their roster that they're looking to develop so that when they move into this new stadium, they can hopefully have some key players that you will go and watch. He's one of those guys. But right now, this season, in this very moment, I don't think he'll be very effective just because I think he's so new and inexperienced at the position that I don't know if he can compete at an NFL level at that position.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We welcome your calls on the Titans. Take your thoughts on the Titans as we wrap up the discussion for the day here on the program. We will revisit the scuffle between Cam Ward and Jeff Simmons coming up next as well. All that ahead, Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. This fall, live at the Pinnacle at Nashville Yards, Tim McGraw will perform at Trinetics' Rock the Cradle. This event's sure to be a great time, celebrating a great cause. Proceeds from the event will support newborns and moms at Ascension St. Thomas Midtown. Get your tickets at rockthecradlenashville.org. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025. Justin from Greenbrier on the text line says, do we think Denard Wilson is a good coach, or that he just doesn't have the dudes and is hamstrung by that? It's an interesting question. I would say this. I think it begins with the players in the NFL, right? Like if he had, TJ Watt out there at edge rusher, we'd probably be feeling a different way about the Titans defense.
Can he play?
Yeah, than we do right now. So it always, to me, is going to start there. But look, something Gentry said earlier this hour, I think is important for Brian Callahan. I think it's important for Denard Wilson. Like, they were a poorly coached football team last year. They were. And it was really in every facet of the game. Yeah, the quarterback play was horrible. And if you can improve that, that's going to make a big difference. Special teams was just brutal last year, and we all saw that. But I thought, even defensively, and really as a whole, like they looked like they were outgunned all the time. Very few answers that the coaching staff came up with. And yeah, a lot of that is roster limitation. I get that. But there needs to be more in the tank from your coaching staff this year to help your guys. Like, that's probably how I'd put it. Like, they did not help their guys enough last year. And again, I've talked about this several times. In retrospect, like the first-time head coach, the first-time offensive play caller, the first-time offensive coordinator, and the first-time defensive coordinator, that's a lot of inexperience in those spots that I think showed itself last year for the Titans. So there's a lot for Denard Wilson to prove as a defensive coordinator this year, in the same way that there's a lot for Brian Callahan to prove as a head coach. Like, yeah, their roster it's not good. Like, it's not a great roster.
Yeah.
And because of that, they're probably behind the 8 ball a little bit, just in terms of like their chances to be successful. But there are things along the way that you can show as a coaching staff, to show management, to show ownership, to show your fan base that, yeah, we know what we're doing. You put the right guys around us, we're going to be fine. And I just didn't feel like they showed enough of that last year.
I think my problem with Denard Wilson, and I think this may go for the rest of the coaching staff, is they try to turn water into wine too much vocally than they do with actual play and what happens on the field. Like, Jeffrey Simmons, for example, could make the worst possible miss on a quarterback, and Denard Wilson would get up on that podium and claim, Jeffrey Simmons, he almost had him. It was a great day for him. And I'm like, dude, like, it's okay to be brutally honest. And I think the fan base is kind of afraid of that, because that's what Mike Vrabel was brutally honest and on some level mean. But it's okay for honesty. And I think that brings up accountability. I want Denard Wilson to come to that podium and just be accountable. Get on his guys. Don't just sweet talk me. Just tell me what's going on, what's wrong with your defense. And I think he is a good coach. I think some of it is the roster that he has and the bad depth he has on defense. And I think he's capable of being a good defensive coordinator in this league. But I think it starts with his talk. And I don't want to say he's too positive, because you can never be too positive in my eyes, but I think he's too not honest with himself. He's too focused on making people happy than he is being honest and accountable with his team.
Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Trey to the program. Trey, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, guys. How y'all doing?
Good, man.
Hey, I just want to say that with Jeffrey Simmons, the way that he's been acting the last couple of years, I don't think it's very, within the team boundaries of what a good, respectable player should be. I think he's very overrated. I think he's been overrated here for the last couple of years. I don't think he should have got paid. And I also think that Denard Wilson is not a very good coach. Being a very good assistant is different than being a very good coach? And how many wins do y'all think we'll win this year? And I also believe that Cam Ward has a reaction problem as far as like seeing the field and getting the ball to the player, on time. And y'all have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Trey. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, let's start on the Simmons front because, obviously the scuffle yesterday between him and Cam Ward, we talked about it earlier in the show. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it because I frankly don't care all that much.
Yeah, I'm over it.
I would advise Jeffrey Simmons, just don't touch the quarterback. That would be great. I understand that Cam Ward instigated it a little bit. Just don't touch the quarterback. That's the general rule that I would like my team to operate with in practice. Keep your hands off the quarterback. Certainly keep the quarterback off the ground. And I know he didn't go to the ground yesterday, but just keep your hand off the quarterback. That would be a general rule of thumb to operate with. As far as the other stuff, Simmons being overrated, we'll see. I think you can certainly make that case the last 2 years, right? I think he has been overrated. I think he has been overpaid for the production that he has provided the last couple of years. It seems like he has taken all that to heart. We've talked about the weight that he's lost. And now with Jeffrey Simmons, I have reached the point where it's like, I don't really care to hear much about it anymore. Just go show me. Go show me the level of production. Don't start talking to me about double teams this year and whether you being double teamed. Go show me. Go fight through some things. Be productive. I've never questioned Jeffrey Simmons's ability or his heart or anything like that. I think he's made of a lot of the right stuff. Not all of the right stuff, but a lot of the right stuff. And I think he's still the best player on the Titans roster. But there's a level of play that we've seen him get to earlier in his career that he needs to return to this year. And this is, if it's not going to happen this year, you start to get to the point where it's like, well, is it really going to ever happen again? You need to see it from Jeffrey Simmons this year.
Right. I don't question Jeffrey Simmons' effort or care. I think he cares a hell of a lot more than a lot of people on that Titans roster. But I'm tired of talking about, well, Jeffrey Simmons went after this person in practice and stuff like that. And frankly, I think a lot of it is overblown. I think yesterday it was wildly overblown. Don't touch the quarterback. That's my takeaway. That's yours too. But you're right. I need to see production from Jeffrey Simmons. And frankly, I need to stop seeing the excuse making. The double teams drive me crazy, like you just said. He did this and it didn't allow me to do this. Just go out and sack the quarterback. That's all I need to see.
Well, and as far as the win total stuff, we'll go through our predictions and stuff for the Titans. I can tell you, spoiler alert, it's not going to be a very high win total that I've got for the Titans.
Yeah, me neither.
Coming up. So I just
and easy on the Cam Ward not getting the ball out to the receivers. Let's see a regular season game first. It's too early to tell, Trey. Relax.
I don't know that I've walked away from the preseason being like, man, he's just late. He can't get the ball out. What's going on? So
I think he's been leading the receivers almost too much. There's the one Ridley one where he kind of had to slide to make that. Van Jefferson, you could argue, was maybe a little bit too out in front.
Yeah, I don't think he's been overly late or anything. Again, this is my thing every year, and I understand why we do it because it's all we got. But we spend an ungodly amount of time talking about preseason and training camp football for it to not mean anything, and then the regular season begins.
Yep,
we're almost
throw
there.
It all out the trash,
and we just crumble it up and be like, all righty, let's get to the regular season. Good stuff. Charles Robinson will be with us tomorrow on the program. That does it for us today. Next Man Up with Jake Lyman is coming up next. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.